Welcome, everyone. Very excited to have you here today for this special component spotlight with Hugh Whiriskey of Partel, Building for the Future, Achieving Durability and Energy Efficiency with High-Performance Building Envelope Systems. I'm Zach Semke. I'm Director of Passive House Accelerator, and we're really excited that you've joined us today and looking forward very much to this presentation by Hugh. And a big thank you to Partel. Partel is one of the founding sponsors of Passive House Accelerator and has made our work possible now for several years, and I'm just very grateful for that support. Hugh Whiriskey is CEO and founder of Partel, and he shapes the company's vision, strategy, and product innovation. As a certified passive house designer and expert in sustainable building and energy efficiency, Hugh brings over 25 years of industry experience. His extensive background spans design, construction management, technical engineering, and R&D. Having held roles such as technical engineer, project manager, and technical director, Hugh has contributed to a wide range of projects from large-scale commercial and residential developments to bespoke homes. So with that, Hugh, please take it away.
So yeah, thanks, Zach, for that, and to the Accelerator and everyone for joining. We appreciate the time today and hope we can share some useful knowledge with you on the type of systems that are now available from Partel. So overall, we're looking at, I suppose, how we achieve durability mixed with high energy efficiency and using our high performance building envelope system. So durability is a key thing for Partel. It's something we're really focused on. And yeah, we think, as Zach kind of touched on, it's one of the main things we should be looking at with new and retrofit construction. So what is the expected longevity from that building, and what can we make it if we make the right choices with membranes? I'll skip this next slide. Zach, you've already kind of embarrassed me, so we'll keep moving. But for today, the idea is a small introduction to Partel, but I really want to look at the interior and the exterior of the buildings as systems, so a systems-based approach. And if we do that, we can really simplify the overall process and how we get the results we want. We'll take a look at how we manage the training side of things, installation, and the support and technical services that we can offer. So Partel, for those of you that are new to Partel today, I guess we're a manufacturer and distribution company active in North America and Europe, home markets of the UK and Ireland, but we do distribute through partners throughout the US, Canada, a number of European countries, and some South American as well. So we're going to start with the exterior products. You'll see the product range, the EXOPERM range, be visible throughout the Partel. That's typically our exterior products, so products that can withstand UV. There's a couple of different versions. The mechanically adhered, which is EXOPERM 150. There is also EXOPERM MONO SA 200. This product is used in open joint facades, so if we think we're going to have long-term UV exposure. And then the product we're overall are going to be focused most on today, which is the self-adhered EXOPERM 250. That's used on walls, on roofs, can be in flat roofs, but a really, I suppose, technical product, but with a lot of applications. In Partel, we think we're kind of uniquely positioned to look at the exterior ceiling, and part of that reason is because of where we live, I guess. So, typical rainfall figures for where we are in Ireland, you'll see a kind of maybe a slightly dark green dot. Where we live, it's actually, or where our office is, it's actually more like 3,000 millimeters of rain per annum, so quite high. And fair enough, that's not extreme when you look at all areas, but when you couple it with the driving rain index, unfortunately for our weather conditions, it means we're absolutely extreme in terms of weather, wind, and in and rainfall. So it gives us a real test, and we really get we have to be very precise about how we seal our buildings externally. So looking at the comment that we touched on, or the reduction of embodied carbon, so we will see a lot more buildings, both high rise and I suppose all types, medium rise, the multifamily projects change to increase levels of timber, and that leaves the question, how do we manage it? You know, we've got the rain we talked about, the moisture, varied conditions depending on your climate zone. Um, but essentially, we see rain as or water or moisture as the big problem and the thing that can create, you know, real damages really quickly. So it could be a dry area that you're in, but you may be subject to flash flooding. Um, so for sure, we need to look at the solutions. How do we protect that timber? When we talk about Ireland, this is actually a typical installation from, you know, how most of our houses are built here. So 2 out of 3 days in Ireland are actually wet. You know, like I said, with the offsite panelized construction, it means we've got semi-finished walls developed in factory and they need protection. And I suppose as people move generally to modern methods of construction, it brings some challenges with protecting those panels as they get delivered to sites. Um, Flat roofs are an interesting area. People can get overconfident with those, but essentially most flat roofs are kind of on the limit anyway and can be pushed towards failure with small leaks or even through moisture allowed in during the construction phase. So the use of the right products can really help with that. We do see a lot of people choosing to protect panels with, you know, cheap plastics, things like that, and you know that's very negative in a few different ways. In that it's a short-term measure. The plastic ends up in landfill typically, but it's also not breathable, easily torn. So you know, kind of a cheap solution that you know isn't all that effective. Um, the next slide is here to show us what the, you know, what can happen, I suppose, a CLT construction if it's exposed or unexposed. And the interesting thing here is I suppose, the rainfall level. So this is showing, you know, up to 900 millimeters of rain. So we said that where we live, it's about 3,000 millimeters of rain. So it's not an extreme figure. But if you choose to leave it unprotected, it shows its moisture contents if it has no cover, so the green line, will almost guarantee a failure. So, you know, kind of what we think, you know, maybe this kind of figure, even at 300 millimeters of rain, can be a real problem for building failure or systems failure. Um, the blue line shows some kind of cover. It's not a breathable cover, but it is a cover to remove or to reduce the amount of moisture impact from rain. So we know that it's worthwhile to protect and it's important, can extend it. We should also then look at how engineered timbers dry. So we're very much used to seeing, you know, are used to the idea the timber dries evenly, and that's fine if it's something like this. But when we move to engineered, the pathways are changed. So when we add adhesives, things like that, it really changes it and can give us some kind of pretty surprising results. So it doesn't dry the same way, can give us pretty um, pretty big issues, I guess. So, you know, we're looking for our timber to be around that 13% overall, but you can find engineered timber that, you know, could have failures in the outer layer, you know, unable to dry in one layer, something like that. So overall, we really need to look at how we keep these products dry. And that's where the product, the EXOPERM MONO SA 250 comes from. Um, it's a 6-layer product, so quite technical and a little bit different to most of the other products on the market. It's got a very tough outer layer, so very high UV stability, quite a heavy product. And then a type of impermeable film that is unique to us that we've managed to introduce some really significant long-term UV protection, but it's a solid breathable layer. Again, another protective layer of PP where it gets adhered to the substrate. It's reinforced and it's got an incredible high performance acrylic adhesive. And again, that's a very different type of product to what you'd see in the market. It's got a very high grab strength. But also we can apply this product with a complete surface of adhesive. So a lot of the products that might exist on the market to allow them to be breathable use intermittent adhesive, whereas the Partel products can have a full surface of adhesive. So that gives us big benefits in a few different ways. It allows for continuous adhesion, no issues with, I suppose, buildup of moisture in areas where there's no adhesive. Um, we do have a very particular split release backing, something that makes it a very fast installation. And we cover that also with a 10-year system warranty. So some of the reasons that we should look at self-adhered products, and one of the key ones is the space between that membrane or the sheet applied goods and the engineered woods. So a gap can be an area where moisture can build up. With a self-adhered product, that gap is completely removed. So we also remove the requirement for mechanical fixings. There is no risk of tearing when panels are being moved or something has been kind of dragged past them. And then lastly, the self-sealing approach. That's really interesting. So if screws are used, the product will self-seal. So a very different type of seal overall. And I think in the market, we see a lot of our big reliance on, I suppose, taped board systems. And, they can work if the taped system is okay and if it's applied correctly, but that can be a real challenge. Whereas we think an engineered or like an OSB or a plywood coupled with EXOPERM is a completely different grade of seal, very high quality, but actually about the same price. So a very different type of safety in system. So just a little look at the type of technology we use. There's kind of one dominant technology in the market right now, and it's microporous. These are the types of breather membranes or weather-resistant barriers that people are used to. So they're formed by three-layer products with a central layer that actually has pores in it. So it's created by stretching. Essentially, there's fissures in it. That's what makes it breathable. But they are subject to blocking. They tend not to be able to develop anything like the same UV protection that we can do with the EXOPERM range. So yeah, two products might look the same, but they'll perform in a very different way. And you can have age differences of, 10 to 15 times longer with an EXOPERM, over a microporous product. So how do we fit the products or where? It's good to know that they can be used on any timbers, CLTs, on OSB, metals, plastic, gypsum boards. We should have the surfaces clean and dry, but generally, we can use it down to very low temperatures and can integrate with the overall system, which we'll get onto in the next few slides. In terms of the type of projects it can be used on, and this product is already being used, right across the US and Europe in different types of, maybe each of these types of buildings. So we see it in high rise used in rain screen facades. That's quite a common product where there might be some rock wool outside of that or some other type of insulation. It's common in multifamily, in the modular projects, and then in the higher end single family homes where people are really taking care of the longevity of the overall project. So what does the overall system look like? How is it simple? In a way, we have the EXOPERM itself, which is the key product. There are some accessories needed. So we use VARA SEAL and CONPREseal to seal around windows or rough openings. We have a flexible sealant, which can be used again at floors or windows. A convex butyl, which is a sill pan flashing or around pipes or penetrations. Um, and there is a product to use in open joint facades, which is the EXOPERM MONO SA 200. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how the product is installed, but essentially it's a hand applied product. There's a roller applied to give pressure and activate the adhesive. That's an important part of it. So after we fit the product, and we might have a little video here we can show, it's very, very quick and easy to do and to get really good results. So I think that's the exterior range kind of covered as a system. And I also want to look now at the interior system, so the smart products or the VARA airtight system. Um, so you'll hear this word kind of used quite a lot, the smart membranes, and what does that mean? And for us, it's really a product that fits all systems. So usually the introduction of a smart membrane can increase the building safety. It can give us better drying potential while also managing the airtightness. The moisture variable function means that the membrane can adapt its perm rating relative to the conditions it's in. And maybe the best way to describe that is it's a little bit like human skin. So it self-regulates in a similar way between interior and exterior. Um, it's all based on relative humidity. So interstitial condensation can be controlled by limiting the sources of moisture in the construction and using the smart AVCL. We're going to look at the smart membranes and see how they actually work in practice. So I think we have a video here that should demonstrate what they actually do. Turn off the music. So how does it actually work? And I think actually what you're seeing here is a building where there's a fluid applied and a sheet applied, and we're going to see what it means in practice. So the VARA Plus system is a 6-layer product, but it has pores that can open and close depending on relative humidity. So in summer, they're open and provide significant drying. In winter, they become quite closed and can protect the construction from indoor humidity. So the idea of what they do is simple. For sure, they're a very technical product, and there's a lot of detail into how they work and how we make them. But in the end, it's a very simple approach. This is an idea using the WUFI, what the impact of a smart membrane can be. It's an extreme kind of situation, so high altitude. There's water content, I suppose, managed in the insulation layer, and this is what this is trying to show us what happens to the water content in the insulation layer. So we're looking at VARA Plus, OSB, a standard kind of airtight membrane, a fixed perm membrane, or cheap PE. And in these tougher situations, you can see that essentially nothing works. Everything has an increasing overall moisture content. If the moisture content is increasing, it will always end in failure. So that's something we look for in WUFI, is to show, is it decreasing? And if so, it tends to mean that the overall construction can work. The VARA system is available in a few different ways. It's got a sheet applied or membrane, fluid applied in a couple of different forms, which I'll get into in more detail. And there's 2 types of tape, a simple overlap tape, a window tape, and another version that has adhesive on 2 sides that we can reapply to windows. This product is reinforced. The sheet applied, it's able to withstand the loads that cellulose insulations can bring. And just to give a little idea of what this variable or smart range means in practice, it shows that our perm range can change, from almost 0 to about 7 overall, depending on the relative humidity. So we like the idea of as an overall system, and looking at these smart acrylic adhesive tapes. The VARA system means it's something you can just specify as one system. I want the EXOPERM on the exterior and the VARA on the interior. And this applies through to the fluid products. So there's a brush version and a spray applied version. I'll show in the next video a little bit about how those work. They're quite intuitive. We'll first cover the joints and openings, or maybe some rough openings, with the brush applied product. And here you see second, that the fluid is being applied in 2 coats. This is the brush version here, where the joints are already sealed. So that would be coat 1 being applied. It'll be left. It could be back rolled in, depending if the surface is quite rough, but it will get a second coat. And this is the brush version. So to complete the system on Windows, or to provide another option, we really like the CONPREseal 3V BG1. So the 3V is the variable. This is a commercially tested pre-compressed tape that can be used to seal from windows onto, be it the VARA Plus, the EXOPERM, or the VARA Fluid. They're a product that we choose an exact width that the gap that they will close, that could be 1/4 of an inch. So we choose a tape that can do that. and the tape will expand, close that gap. It works just as well for airtightness in as it does for hurricane tested from the exterior. So a really weather tight and airtight, single product for windows. And maybe the biggest part about it is it completes the window installation from a sound protection point of view. So people might often wonder why the windows are allowing some sound leakage, and it tends to be how that detail was managed, and these products are excellent in that regard. So just to talk a little bit about testing, it's something we do quite a bit of internally. You'll see here the Conexo tape being tested in a 180-degree peel test, and this type of test or this type of load is designed to mimic the types of load a building might undergo. So we saw earlier that moisture contents in timber can vary, from maybe 7% up to 17%, depending on the project. So it means there's a lot of movement required or adaptive ability needed to be integrated into our systems. So we do that with both the adhesives and the tapes and test them to a very high degree. We're currently working and with, I suppose, this quite a few organizations. So I would say BBA, Intertech, CSTB in France, Fraunhofer, Passive House Institute. We are a partner in the University of Galway, which is our local university, working with Maynooth University. So yeah, really it's a kind of an ongoing, growing thing. So coupled with our own internal studies and the external studies, we've got some of the most tested products on the market. And based on our audience today, I thought it'd be interesting to show the results. So, at the moment in the Passive House database, you see tested products and you see, if you like, kind of what category they fall into. So airtight products tend to be, all in category A, but it is worth looking at the actual figures on the test. So when you go a little deeper, you see the VARA fluid spray has a leakage rate of 0. The EXOPERM MONO 250 is 0.01. So both of those products are the lowest in their category of any products on the database. And it does expand out from that. We were keen to have the sealing grommets included. So there's a huge range of those tested. So we can do a full external or internal seal, in a Passive House certified system. So looking at training and installation, we operate this in a few different ways. We work, for example, in the US with construction instruction in Colorado. So they've got a lab, but also some training videos. They do a lot of in-person training there. But we will also do field testing. So this was from an install in a project not that far from us, and this is us coming back to do a site inspection afterwards. So it's a kind of an easy product to install or to show how to install, but something that we know is important to support. In terms of where the products are used, and I thought a few slides might be helpful to show that. So here we look at a few different types of modular construction. So it's a prefabricated timber panels. This is a metal frame LGS prefabricated school, another here. And sometimes, they can be a closed box, completely wrapped and finished internally, or the panels in this way. So it means that people have a lot more money tied up in the project when it's modular construction like that, and they're far more concerned about sealing them completely in the factory before they reach the project. This is a single family home. It was in the northwest of Ireland, so some of the most challenging areas that we have, I guess. And again, people will kind of default to this type of product to ensure durability. And looking here, these projects were quite interesting for us because they were I suppose, based in extreme high temperatures, so quite a contrast from what we're used to. But they're projects that we got an amazing test. It actually started the first project in this region where we were chosen as one of 5 different products to be applied to a building. In the end, the EXOPERM was the only one that survived, and kind of since then, it's become a kind of a default in some of these regions because of that. So we can handle very high temperatures. um, along with the low temperatures we mentioned earlier. We're quite active in the passive house industry, so this is in the UK, in Vermont, but the VARA Fluid product was actually used in this tower in Manhattan for all party walls. And I quite like this project from Baxtingry. It was a incredibly challenging project. It was Kevin Brennan that would have installed all of the products, but he used the complete VARA system. So you can kind of see the type of thing he was dealing with, large gaps in between bricks, really challenging joints in floor beams. And, the end result was, you know, below one air changes, but quite thorough work. And you'll see kind of all products from the VARA system used, actually including the pre-attached window tapes. So these are tapes that can be fixed onto the window before being installed into the opening. And then kind of last couple of slides, this is the maybe the more typical CLT projects, so CLT and cellulose. These were actually cellulose on the outside, so I-beams, so CLT walls with cellulose I-beams and the EXOPERM system on the outside. This is again a coastal project in Ireland using the VARA system and EXOPERM, and one more from Vermont. But I guess the reason we show these diversity in projects is to show that they're very much product systems that are designed for all regions. We're happy to comment or be involved in, how you specify them, but the general principle is they should suit, many, many locations. Um, so just to give a last couple of slides, we're working with, we think a lot of the right people in terms of who we partner with. And, the first of those is the Passive Out Accelerator, who we're very grateful to be involved with and happy to support. But yeah, overall, kind of what you should expect from Partel is, we believe and are passionate about the compatibility and tested systems. We're always keen to help get our products specified in a good way and open to questions and providing or sharing that knowledge or advice. And we're quite developed in terms of our own internal testing, QA, product development, and general testing. So yeah, I think that's my presentation overall. I'd be very happy to take any questions.
Fantastic. Thank you, Hugh. That was
Okay, thanks.
really awesome. And we do have some
Thanks.
questions, so I think we'll jump right in. The first
Okay.
one is from, it looks like it's from Michael Ingwe. Michael.
Okay.
I love cutting the line. You know, because
Yes, that's founder's privilege.
I don't really think that was the first question, but it's timely because Hugh, first of all, thanks for everything, and we finally just photographed that project.
Oh, cool. Great.
So
Yeah.
we're actually going to wind up doing a whole article on like how we did all the finishes with you and in terms of like the whole systems. And that was going to be my question for you. And maybe you could just kind of re-review that for everybody, because I think there's a bunch of people on today who do retrofits. And I
Okay.
think that one of the big differences between Partel and a whole bunch of others is you have that whole system, which is why Kevin Brennan chose to use Partel on that. And so maybe, I mean, just kind of like from the bottom to the top, kind of describe that, because I feel like that system was, I don't want to say the word super easy because I didn't install it, but seemed like it was super easy.
Yeah.
And I think again, it's a whole system, which I feel like for people, especially if it's their first project, it's so good to take a systems-based approach. So
Totally. Yeah.
that
No,
was my question.
no, yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think it's a good question, and the idea of specifying, not just for the architect, but also for, I suppose, the user. So for them, what do they need to have on site? What products do they need? And are they interchangeable? So, I think what Kevin does is, and what he found was that, yeah, certain areas might call for sheet applied goods, or others might work better with a spray or brush applied. And being able to take one in and out at different times makes a lot of sense. So yeah, that project in particular, I love it as well because it covers everything. So everything that's difficult is really there. Um, So I think, yeah, when you're doing that case study, sharing those kind of tricks in order to show people how that sealing work. And I think that's what we worked through with Kevin that time. So the
Mm.
old bricks were a huge challenge. The gaps around them were much bigger than people expected, and they required a lot of attention to detail and time and patience. I think that was a big thing in it, that kind of acknowledging that. So the fluid applied seemed to be a good product, coupled together with some of the bigger gaps being closed with some of our other sealants.
Yeah, I think it worked out really well. Yeah, hopefully in the next, I would say 2 to 3 weeks, we'll have an article together for it,
Oh,
because
cool.
we were just waiting for the photos. So
Great. Sounds good.
thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Cheers.
All right. Next up is Enrique Bueno.
Hi, Hugh. Good seeing you again.
Hey, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Good.
In the case where you would put rock wool board on the outside to prevent any thermal bridging there, where would you put the EXOPERM, and which one would you use there?
Yeah, typically in that situation, the EXOPERM is adhered to the substrate first and the rock wool outside of that. So that's a very common application in commercial structures.
Okay, but then you would leave the rock wool exposed to any
It's
rain.
a good question. I mean, we would use ideally some kind of a rain screen membrane outside of that as well, because it keeps, like you say, the rock wool dry. I can't speak for Rockwool, and I know in different regions they say it's okay, yes or no, or it depends on the surface outside of that as to what the rain impact is. But in terms of a weather sealing and airtightness, we know that the EXOPERM works very well behind the Rockwool.
Okay.
And sorry, I should say it's the self-adhered product that is used in that situation.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I used retrofit. I did. I put the EXOPERM 200 on the outside,
Yes.
covering the rock wool, just to.
Yeah, I mean, you could, if you're using the mechanically adhered, I mean, that's a good product for the outside and that will work for sure. I think what we see in the commercial jobs, Enrique, is that people want to get it weather sealed quicker. And the use of the EXOPERM self-adhered, the 250 product, gives you that kind of immediate seal and allows construction work to carry on inside pretty quick.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, no worries.
Thanks, Enrique. All right. Next up is Shibe.
Hi, I'm Shive. Thanks for the presentation. My question is more about installations. For the membrane, I saw some wrinkles in the hot climate projects. I wonder if that's okay with this type of project membrane, and if the installation can allow some
Wrinkles?
wrinkles like that, and if the product is forgiving for this
Yeah.
type of installation mistakes.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good question. I think it's natural that there will be some Shibe. It's common, I guess. So and it depends on the substrate, which is usually the problem or what we're dealing with. And I think, you sometimes follow the surface and you'll have joints and panels, so you have to allow for some movement. So um, the overall answer to your question is that the membrane itself is flexible, and we need that to be flexible to move with joints as the timber changes in size. And the same with the adhesive. So the adhesive will remain adhered, but will allow some flexibility. So broadly speaking, we've no problem with some creases. You strive for a crease-free insulation usually, but we know that's not always that practical.
Yeah, it's probably difficult for the installer to make it very perfect.
True.
I do have a second question, if that's
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
For the liquid apply, does it require priming for the existing brick?
Yeah, it's a nice question. So the liquid itself acts as a primer. So your first coat is essentially a primer. So you can go a little thinner with the first coat to allow it to be the primer, and your second coat can be thicker. You can do it that way. But yeah, broadly speaking, it's a primer itself.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there
No
any
worries.
installation instructions
Yeah,
available?
yeah, for sure. There's install videos. I know there's a whole range of them available and more to come. but there is text, very detailed installation guides for each one, and that would have been provided as part of the Passive House certification. They were, really, really thorough. They're good.
Great. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Cheers.
Thank you, Shibe. Okay, next up we have Rosmal. Rosmal, are you still here?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Quick question to Hugh.
Yeah.
My confusion is presenting this to contractors and clients. They have this question about vapor permeability versus the airtight wrap. Because to get the energy efficiency, we got to wrap it completely airtight. Now, I believe your product is vapor permeable. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So how is that going to affect a standard residential assembly, say in cold climate, say Toronto, Canada? So the process should be the assembly process is drywall inside stud with bad insulation and the sheathing, and then your product come out of it, right?
Yeah.
So can it be used as a rain screen? Because this is the situation that I have two options, two conditions I'm facing with. One is the brick with the airspace and the brick assembly to the outside. Now, when it comes to siding, then you got to put the sheathing, your product, and then sheathing on your product. And there's going to be a lot of nail holes in the attaching the sheathing, and of course the brake anchors. So how is that going to seal the building 100% airtight?
Yeah. So there's a few things on that one, and it might be better to engage with me afterwards to get a very detailed facade analysis. But typically in a cold climate, it can work as the breather membrane on the outside, but we may need to look, as the VARA Plus system needed on the inside as well. So in a cold climate, that could be the case, or you might need some insulation outside the EXOPERM as well to minimize risk of condensation, but I'd have to check it with your location in mind, and we'll be happy to do that. In terms of self-sealing with the systems, if screws are used, they self-seal very, very well, and outside of that, it depends a little on how many fixings are going to be used and what type of fixings they are, but screws will self-seal.
Yeah. Quick question. What's the thickness, and is it available in North America and Canada basically? And what is the comparable cost with another material, competitive material?
Okay. Availability is good. Yeah, it's available all over North America. No issues there. You can reach out to us and we'll put you in contact with a distributor or a dealer. And in terms of the cost, I'm good on the technical. I don't have exact cost, but I know it seems to be competitive against some of the other products, and in a good way, because it's a very cost-effective product to install because it does not need a primer. So the labor reduction is significant. And then after that, the material itself may cost a little more, but its durability is a very different thing to the other types of products. So very age resistant. So I think overall your install cost should be the same.
Yeah, see, the installation is it's a sticky back installation or screwed, with a screw down hanging on the sheathing.
Yeah. I don't think they compare to mechanically adhered. I mean, you're changing the type of product really. So for sure, mechanically adhered products will be significantly cheaper.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
If you can, you probably have my information, and if you can keep the conversation going, would be great.
No problem.
Thank you, Rosmal. All right, next is Stefan.
Hi, Hugh. Thank you so very much. I'm planning an exterior retrofit of a 40-year-old home, taking the siding and the tar-impregnated felt paper off and using the plywood sheathing as my plane that I want to establish the air barrier.
Okay.
One contractor has told me that a self-adhered will not apply or will not stick to the old felt or the old plywood. I'm wondering if that would be the same advice with the EXOPERM, or?
I think the easiest thing to do on something like that is to send you a sample, and if you could expose an area to do a test in person is the smart thing to do. So at least you can be sure. So we're not always sure, but we've certainly done that, and that has worked in other cases. And if it happens to be a problem, I would say your fix would be to use some primer as well. If it happened to be for some other reason, there was something different used in the production of that plywood, but I would expect you'd have a good chance if it was clean and dry for good adhesion. It's quite
Okay,
different, the
so
adhesion in EXOPERM to the other self-adhered products.
okay, I'm kind of imagining that there will be a multitude of staples that in pulling them out will ding the plywood so it won't give us a nice flat surface, but leaving them in is also going to give a bit of a raised surface.
Yeah, I mean, it should be pretty smooth, the surface, but you can evaluate that when you open an area, what work needs to be done. But in the end, if you get full coverage with the membrane over and the staples have been, let's say, leveled, maybe not removed, you can see, I think you'd be in a good position.
Okay,
So if
thank
you
you.
send me an email with an address, we can send you a sample to trial.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay, no worries. Cheers.
Awesome. Thanks, Devin. Okay, next up is Mario.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How are you? Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Mario.
So Hugh, thank you for the presentation. And I had another question for you. So with the expanding foam tape, I saw that it was installed. It was installed. Was that to the exterior or to the interior? And also, is it recommended? Has it been done to where you can install on the exterior side of the wall as well as the interior for more like acoustic isolating or sound? I do some work in music as well, so just
Okay, yeah,
looking
we
at
get
it that
those
way.
requests now and then. Yeah, that particular tape is designed to be essentially the full width of the window, so it's for interior and exterior.
Oh,
So
fantastic. Well,
easy
because I
answer.
saw it just this big, so I didn't realize that it was the whole width of the window. Oh, nice.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. There's two different
Fantastic.
types. You can get one that is just for the outside as well,
Okay.
but that particular one it's pretty substantial.
Okay. Have you all done isolation testing? Like how much it actually
There's
helps with it and without it as far as
there's
dB?
dB figures on that, yeah. So
Okay.
essentially it'll continue what the window was offering,
Okay.
which is the missing link usually.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No worries. Okay.
Thanks, Mario. These have been awesome questions, guys. If you have one last question, this is your opportunity to pose it. Hugh, I have a question for you, and this is partly to tee up the excellent interview that you did with Matthew Cutler Welsh for the Passive House podcast. And we've kind of like teased or touched upon this a little bit, but I thought it'd be fun to dive in just a little bit deeper. And that is when you're asked about what's the embodied carbon of your material, what are the upfront carbon implications, what is the response, and what's a way to think about that?
Yeah, thanks, Zach. Look, it's the area we're most focused on, I think. So we've always been focused on durability. We tend to make our membranes different to most other suppliers, and they cost a little bit more usually. But I think people would be shocked if they knew how long a typical WRB would last, So the standard one that you will buy, be it heavy or light, which is usually how people gauge the good or bad, is 0 to 10 years.
Wow.
That's something to think about, So it'll start to delaminate, it'll lose its water tightness. So yeah, we need a system change overall in those. And we've got lots of things coming that'll kind of help to demonstrate or show that. But the way I look at it, I guess it's the same as you, Zach, that if we can use the right membrane, you're talking about what's the replacement cost of that roof? Is it going to be in 10 years or will it be in 150? And
Right.
that's, really significant carbon savings. And it doesn't have to stop at 150. If we get things right, you could be, genuinely building real long-term buildings. And that's, generational rather than that cost someone's got to bear every 20, 10, whatever years. I don't know, that the roof may have water leakage issues.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Yeah, that kind of we kind of zooming out a little bit and looking at the bigger picture is just so key.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
got a journey to
fantastic.
go. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Hugh, this has really been wonderful. Thank you for the presentation, and thanks everyone for the great questions. That was a really a fantastic discussion session. And we will have this a complete session on our Passive Accelerator YouTube channel very soon. So expect that within the next couple of days. So you can review it, share it with your colleagues. A big thank you to Hugh and to Partel again for your founding sponsorship support of the Passive Accelerator and the leadership that you're playing in this high performance building industry adventure. And thanks again, everyone. Have a wonderful Thursday, and thanks for coming.